What's the proper mood?
The proper mood for our little list. I would say sports radio would fit well.
Yeah, but sports radio for an entire recording would be pretty.
Would be a bit too much.
Hey, hello, welcome to five of the week. Yeah, like ho ho ho. Guess who we got here this week? It's Nepto and a coach star coming to you live with another. Well, it's not live since no one's listening.
It's not quite a live record. It's a live recording, I guess.
Yeah, live. Uh,
What's the definition of live recording?
uh,
Is it
with
something being recorded and going out live, or is it
no, it
just
just means
one
there's no
recording
post
and then
processing. I think like it's a live recording of something happening live. It's a recording of something happening live, so there's no editing or post processing. At least that's what I think. Let's see. Well, in music recording, live recording is that you, when you're like recording songs in a studio, you record an entire, like the band simultaneously, and overdubbing is where you um, record separate tracks and lay them over to get each other in the mixing. So, sure, I guess live recording means something happening live that is being recorded. But anyways, we're here with five of the week. Hefty 1 minute 54 seconds allocated to absolutely nothing as of yet. This week we're sort of going back to the roots of the origins of the podcast, where which the title comes from, and we're gonna do five of the week, five topics, five blah 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 points of discussion. But this week our five is gonna be five players you'd most be interesting or that would be best candidates to give a 3 year supermax offer. Um, yeah, or a supermax contract, not just an offer. Because, but if you just had your pick of the litter, your three most valued targets to give a 3 year supermax contract as a general manager in the SBA. Is that all clear? I gave you the exercise beforehand, but you said you maybe hadn't really
I,
fulfilled your
I
list.
didn't have the time really to prepare, so we're doing this on the fly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
All
have
right,
some ideas.
but it should be clear. Well, as you maybe sort of have an idea in your head, but don't have anything concrete as of yet, I'm gonna go with my honorary mention first, if that's all right. My honorary mention is drum roll. Well, it's actually ruining my audio. So no drum roll. It's Timothy Nowitzki Thurman, currently playing for the Vancouver Wolverines. Since a player of his caliber, already been a very successful and dependable playoff player, and of course regular season as well. And from now until season like season 60, 61, 62 would be his years 4, 5, and 6. Yeah, and
Yeah, that would be four,
he's
five, six.
he's already been very dependable. Obviously, this is cheating because you couldn't even give Timothy Nowitzki Thurmond a supermax
A
contract
supermax.
yet, but there might be still some players. Well, there's a lot of players in the SBA you couldn't give that contract to still. So that would kind of ruin the point of the exercise if you just exclude everyone. But yeah, Nowitzki Thurmond is very high in his development already, with currently 1007 EPE in the middle of his fourth season, which would put him on track to have something like 80. 1,430, 1,440. By the time this contract has expired, then there'd still be two prime seasons left. Which seems crazy, but I guess that's right. Sure. Maybe a little less,
I mean,
maybe just a hair above 1,400, but still.
I think we are pretty much on the
Hmm?
same track as he is on right now.
Yeah,
Because he's 2 years back from us about 250, 300 TP. That's about right.
yeah. Well, a little more. For you, it's 295 TP, and for me, it's 270 TP. But still, yeah, quite around there. Should we go for a real, actual nomination? I can just do my
Yeah,
one first.
I have fears that we are at least 4 players that we are having in common in our lists, based on what I'm just thinking of right now. So
All right.
go ahead and throw out your first player, and I can tell you.
Uh, the first player I put on my list is GMO1 Zealot of the uh, Atlanta Vipers currently.
That's interesting. Okay, I didn't have GM 01 on my list yet, mainly because I was thinking of 60, 61, 62, and I believe there are 4 players that are more impactful than he is.
Yeah.
Um, that will still be in the prime for those 3 seasons. And my fifth spot was going to MVP, to
Yeah.
Vlatko Page, um, because just that dominant scorer you can throw around the lineup between shooting guard, power forward, center, whatever has to be filled, and he will give you some pretty decent production, especially from next year on, regardless of the position he has to fill.
Yeah. My thinking for Zealot was like almost the exact opposite, where you have a player who's not a huge scorer but can still effectively play all five positions, I think. And if it's if the prime seasons 7 and 8 are gonna be anything comparable to Jihan Chen, for example, and Zealot like might be just one of the best players in the league in some time. And also, I well, it's sort of mentioned already at the top, but I really like the possibility of playing five positions, and no wonder it's banned right now. But yeah, Vlatko Pejic also has that same advantage. Also, right now, GMO1 Zealot 1 TP more than Vlatko Pejic. Before we get into it, no, I also originally had Vlatko Pejic on my board here, but there was a sort of a logical fallacy at one point. So I eliminated Vlatko Pejic completely and just went with another player. Um, who do you think, like,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to just touch on what you said about the 5 position eligibility and not being a dominant scorer, making Zealand that attractive. I mean, you are right in some regard, especially with all those guys wanting to be scorers. But I still have that line of thought that you want your super max guy to be, or if you are spending the super max on a guy, you have to, and you can pick and choose that you want your best and most dominant guy on both ends of the court being that super max guy. And I'm not sure if Zealand will ever get into that role, especially since he also likes to pass the ball quite a bit.
yeah,
Um,
well, who do
but
you
we will see.
think would, between the two of them, would ultimately have in their prime more like MVP equity or more MVP votes? Just like this is more context based because this is not just a fantasy draft sort of thing like our exercise would be, but uh, in their careers from now on, who do you think would be receiving more MVP votes?
Based off their current builds,
Yeah,
I would say MVP.
yeah.
Um,
Funny enough.
yeah, funny enough, mainly because he has a massive difference when it comes to scoring, and those few assists that Zila racks up over him um, don't make it up, nor do the rebounds. But I will say it's entirely dependent as MVP is always on the team context. I mean, if you throw Grant Thompson this season on, I don't know, what's a team that has a lot of scores? Let's say Maulers for the fun of it. Um, he wouldn't be putting up the same numbers
Yeah,
or the same volume numbers he's putting up right now. So it's a tricky question, but I think from the build standpoint right now, on the same team, it's probably MVP taking it home over Zealand.
yeah. I was in the first place. I was just thinking that what would be a prime career season average or prime season average for Zealot, and I could see like 26 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists, 2.5 steals, 2.5 blocks, like being quite reasonable and on high efficiency as well because of the sort of capped inside and a lot of playmaking added to it. And like to say that Zealot or a player of that ilk wouldn't be maybe worth of the super max contract, it's maybe a little too harsh, but obviously I get the comparison that you were trying to make between Zealot and Pesic, not just between Zealot and any other Supermax contract player.
But if you say 9 assists per game, then I assume you see Zealot on the perimeter.
Yeah, in a different position. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so I mean I get, but I don't know if he would be able to get the shooting efficiency needed from his build because he's lacking that jumping to get like a Cooper-esque output from the perimeter.
Yeah, maybe it
So
doesn't even need to be 670 true shooting like he has having this season. It's just above 650, and then it would still be excellent for a player who plays like between shooting guard and center anywhere there, for example. But yeah,
yeah,
Pesic could easily sort of do the same, but with maybe more turnovers and less assists and more points. Well, more points. So it's um, it's not so easy. And yeah, like I said, I originally had Pesic, but you'll figure out later why I had to scrap Pesic from my um, original list. Um, who do you think we should talk about next? Maybe if you nominate one, then we'll see if I have them on my.
so under the assumption, as I say again, 60, 61, 62, um, it would be crazy to not give Hollywood a super max
Mm-hmm.
because as much as I hate his random trash talk, um, he's a good player, great player, one of the best on the wings right now. Um, and I think in the right team composition, he can do some really big damage.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would want him to add onto his playmaking as it is right now. Um, but maybe that would be the one that's fully unlocking his case to be an MVP case. But not so sure if it's a smart decision to let your best player pass the ball away more often than he already does. So
Yeah, I also had Hollywood second on my, or like this is not in any prioritization order, it's just the order I put them into the text file. But yeah, before we get into Hollywood more, I just think the adding passing is quite like it's some sort of a luxury pick that a lot of high TP small forward eligible players do,
Mm.
as you've seen in the past, and also in my past maybe should have done because there's not as like I'm not sure if you can call it diminishing returns, but uh, it's difficult to appreciate the difference from 95 to 99 stealing or 95 or 90 to 99 blocking or
Yeah,
85 to 95 defensive rebounding once you're at that 1500 peak number of TP. So just like 80 handling and 75 passing just seems like a more added luxury benefit. And yeah, I guess it's also banking on the fact that your teammates are eventually gonna get as good as you, which is
mm.
fine. But I hope that's a conscious decision and not just yeah. I guess I'll put my points here, sort of decision. But yeah, it would be like you said at first very stupid not to have Hollywood here as the fourth highest AP player in the league currently, and still having his sixth, seventh, and eighth season ahead of him, or like sixth underway, and you know,
Yeah.
so definitely worth a pick here. What do you think? Interesting to compare a standard shooting guard slash small forward to the guys named previously. Let's not get too much into Thurmond, but Pesic and Zealot. Do you see a MVP trophy being reasonable in Hollywood's future, or is it more likely that some of the power forward eligible players would give him harsh competition there, like El Melayni, Akili, Ekstrom, Campazzo
I
even?
don't I don't see an MVP trophy for him in the cards. Um, with the competition, unless he has some crazy luck on the defensive numbers and I don't know, puts out 3.5 steals per game, 1.4 blocks per game, and then does 30 points, 6 to 8 assists on 65 to 67 true shooting, something like that. Then maybe he could get away with it.
Yeah.
Um, but the way the Maulers are set up, I don't see it happening right now. And the class around them are not exactly weak either. I mean, Frost is added still. There's Campazzo. There's then from the class underwards MVP Ziele, maybe even Muad'Dib. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and also I think as a shooting guard slash small forward player, and only playing those two positions, like this, the key difference is the peak scoring efficiency that you're reasonably able to reach. Like also there, you could have some luck. Like you could have a 67, 68, even maybe 69 true shooting seasons, but that's not just like expected. Whereas whereas it could be for 1,550 AP power forward, reasonably expected at least. So yeah,
yeah,
it's gonna be difficult, but it's gonna be interesting to see as well because right now at this point it seems like Hollywood has sort of reached that peak because now the added luxury passing and stuff like now the improvement is gonna get slower and slower and like will we in 2 seasons be looking at like yeah Hollywood has been the same guy for 3 seasons even though very good but still like is there the special like top of the elite uh, punch lacking because of the positional eligibility? I don't know. Probably not. It's still gonna be like very eye popping numbers, really. So good luck to him, and we'll be interested in
Was he on
We,
your list?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I said earlier that Hollywood was the second guy I named.
All right.
Yeah, my third player is yeah. Speaking of, we will be interested in the MVP competition. I also have Magnus Ekström here as my third player. It's quite self-explanatory, I think. Do you have Magnus in your three players or three remaining players?
Yeah, I have him on there, and I also have, surprise, surprise, Talib Akili on there
Yeah,
to to get the other part of the Wii
yeah. I
covered.
also I also have
So,
them both. I was like, when I was scrapping MVP, I first took out Akili, but then I realized, well, it would be much better to manage my own player and have one very dependable player. So obviously, there's an added benefit there of signing myself instead of Bayo, or signing myself instead of player X or user X.
you
But
know,
yeah,
disregarding the whole "it's your own player" thing. When we talked about Zealot earlier, even though he is of course the guy that's able to fit 5 positions, I think with the investment, especially into blocks that you need as a big man, um, it makes those types of players the most efficient at their big man spots. So even though it would be great to be able to throw Akili out onto the perimeter in the playoffs or whatever, um, I still see him as like a more mature version of Zealot, even though with a bit more hefty investments on the athletics so far. So if I had to choose, I would probably stick with Akili
yeah.
in that player type.
Yeah, but Akili and Ekstrom and Hollywood also 1 year older, so
Yeah,
Zealot has some runway
yeah,
to.
especially so that's the main reasoning. So Akili and Zealot are quite similar in their playstyle, but Akili is older and will carry that momentum, that advantage
Oh
more
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I thought of it.
throughout the whole Super Max thing.
Yeah, I thought of it the opposite way because then it's reasonable to think that if, like, let's say Zealot is, or Achilles evenly valuable to Zealot right now. But that just means Zealot is a better player because Zealot costs less salary and still has one more season after. Obviously, the one more season after is not like considered in this, but the cost is what was my main point. That if you're on the surface level as good of a player, but you earn less money, that's better for you as a general manager to sign, obviously.
Yeah, I see your train of thought there.
Yeah, like I can understand the opposite as well because that means there's the pure TPE number is eventually gonna break through, but maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe Goliath is more like scientific about his player build than I am, and I wouldn't like really put it past him. Let's just for the viewers. Obviously, we know our own players quite well, but for the viewers, the listeners, Talib Akili is quite a ways away. Something 30 TP, like we spoke on at the top, but Ekstrom is comparable to the aforementioned Dimitri's Hollywood, only trailing by 4 TP, and being as experienced in the league, has the added benefit of not only playing shooting guard and small forward, but also being able to be deployed as a power forward and center, for which I guess Ekstrom's abilities are would be suited quite well, but not as well as a sort of a specialized big man build would be. But as an offensive player, certainly could see Ekstrom playing any position that he's able to, and defensively, it's still depending on where one's gonna go. And yeah, generally, I just like if I had Hollywood or if I had Ekstrom, I couldn't have the other one out because they're so similar in value, and it doesn't make sense to have only one of the two. For Akili, yeah, he's my own player, but also very good defensively. Not sure if that's gonna be enough. Like maybe eventually got to start getting even better offensively, but I've tried my hardest for the past 10 weeks, and it's getting there. Even tried so hard at some point that I was advised to start investing back into defense, which was a pleasant surprise. But yeah, what do you think
You,
about
you know
X?
my stances on your photos.
Yeah, I always scroll back and forth, and I'm yeah, I'm interested in how the uh, goes back and forth between where's the offense and now where's the more defense. Yeah. But of Ekstrom, do you think he is equally comparable to Hollywood, like as in value, or even maybe more because of positional versatility?
As in value, probably. Uh, so they fill two slightly different roles. So I mentioned earlier how I usually dislike when your best player is passing away the ball because
Yeah.
who else do you want to have the ball, especially in late game situations and crucial situations. And that's why I also have none invested in passing on this player for a reason. Even though he is not as good this season offensively as he was last season, he's still pretty decent. And yeah, I think his versatility, especially working on both the perimeter and the big spot, similar to Zealot's build, just with a different focus, can be more valuable depending on the team you want him to deploy in. If you already have a good and dominant wing, then you would want to go with Ekstrom. If you have like a Thompson down low, then you would want to go with a Hollywood. So
Well, so far in my fantasy draft team, I have Zealot at the point guard spot, and then Hollywood at the two, and then Ekstrom and Akili. So that's quite good. I don't know if that's salary cap legal. Don't think so,
probably not.
but
I
that
think
still leaves some versatility for Ekstrom. Does
right.
that mean like do you have? Oh yeah, it was Bejic. How did I forget? I was just thinking of where's there's must be one player missing because yeah, but I didn't type it down. Hmm. Yeah. Well, before we get into the fifth player, let's turn this over to a other type of discussion here. Of the players mentioned as of yet, who do you think is the most likely to be selected into the SBA Hall of Fame in the future? Like this is like uh,
That's an interesting one. I find it very interesting because even though all four or five mentioned players, if we take MVP and Zealot, um, even though all of them have had a decent career so far and have been putting up solid numbers, I don't see any of us winning an award this season, as in positional award.
mhm.
Um, I know MVP has his MIP. Uh, I don't. No, it wasn't one of us that won Rookie of the Year. Um, and I have a six man of the year. I don't know if the rest has any awards. I don't think so. Maybe Zealot also a six man of the year. No,
Um,
just
Not sure if
um,
they are completely updated on SBAO.
they
Yeah,
should be. I inputted them a couple weeks ago,
I
like two
guess that
weeks.
means then no one has any sort of awards. Then Beatrice has
We have
the
no awards yet. So if you would have like someone in its fifth or sixth season having a positional award, that would be a pretty good advantage over the rest.
Yeah,
So it's purely hypothetical at this point.
yeah,
Um, who
that's
will have the
the
best
point.
team
Yeah,
around him?
I guess
I
Nowitzki
honestly don't
Thurmond
know.
has an award.
Does
if
he?
Yeah, he won Rookie of the Year, I think.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, I could also count Magnus. It's like Magnus having his sixth man of the year in his rookie season. That's like nice to have, but it's not going to matter much in the Hall of Fame discussion.
Yeah,
Um, which is interesting because I don't know who will have the best prime seasons to get their awards. I could see MVP getting some with the way that the odds lots are looking, with him being like the big scorer that gets fed by Lotus, Petronitis, and Campato, um, and him having some crazy seasons in his like year 7, year 8. So yeah, probably MVP. The rest all have two stack teams or don't have the play style that scream MVP or multi-year winners of positional awards to me.
I guess there's like a sort of chance that players like Ekstrom or Akili could be two-time playoff MVPs of the players mentioned, or Pejic even.
I mean, I wouldn't mind. That-
Yeah, but that's like that
that's
not.
grasping at straws.
Yeah,
You
yeah, yeah.
don't
But
know if it's
that's
going to
that's the
happen.
entire point of this hypothetical anyway. So maybe if I had to pick one, I would also pick Pejic because his trajectory seems most uh, directed directed towards like the absolute stardom, but still like our players, like the players mentioned, Hollywood Extra, Makili, and even El Melaini and the other guy in Chicago, where there's gonna be a season where all of us are the best players pretty much in the league by APE.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be weird, like if we somehow happen to not win awards that season either, that's gonna be like excellent.
I mean,
But
I could see us not winning awards purely based on we have a good team around us and are not therefore not getting the volume stats that some other guy is getting
yeah, but if
because
the
he's playing
difference
on
is
a
that high, then it's like the AP difference is eventually gonna make it up. Like if the second best candidate is like 620 true shooting and 2.1 steals per game, like
yeah, of course, but at the same time you can't make up as much in volume as you can in efficiency.
yeah.
At least I feel like it. You can shoot 70% true shooting from the field, but if you're only scoring 20 points per game and your counterpart is scoring 35 points per game
Oh, is
on
that Scott Henry,
64.
Oli Carl Carter's music? Like he's still at 790 true shooting percentage this season, but
Is he still?
yeah, 719, but only 8.8 field goals. This like I was telling Sid in the preseason, like if this weird shit sort of somehow keeps up, then there's a possibility that he's gonna be sort of competing for like second team All SPA, but there's just no way. There's
Yeah,
just
it's
no
the production that he's missing.
like.
Um,
But 13 points, 6.8 rebounds, 6.3 assists, only 1.6 turnovers, of course, playing center. And then, like back then, his steals and blocks both were over 3. That was also a key point. Now they're 2.5 and 2.7.
I mean, I haven't checked in how Leon is shooting, but he's close to 70% shooting as well,
Yeah,
as usual. But he also doesn't have the volume yet. So yeah, that's the question. That's why I think we are spot on with MVP, but being the most likely to get into the Hall of Fame in the end.
yeah. All right, it's time for the fifth player, the final player for each of us. I'm gonna save mine for the last because it's definitely not gonna be the same as yours, and it's gonna be the root of all my earlier fallacies in my decision
Uh,
making, maybe you already get an idea of what it is. But you can go ahead and name your fifth
I mean,
contestant, to the nomination for the. Or do you have all five now?
no, I have one left. I said earlier I had four guys that I pretty much had said.
Yeah.
Um, we have mentioned three of those with Hollywood, Ekstrom, and Akili, and Bass El Nuliani is my fourth guy. Basically, he also fits the bill of being flying all over depth charts, especially for goalies Vipers who loves to give Bayo a new depth chart with every sim. Um, but yeah, he has that TPE level. He has that profile. Let me call it like that, where on the right team he could get a good amount of shots for himself, especially if he upgrades his jump shot a bit further, and could be like a classic two-way guy with like a good amount of passing in there as well. And I don't think anyone that's left on the board, hypothetically speaking, is denying him that package. But but I'm interested to hear what you have to offer as
Yeah,
your fifth
let's
guy.
just. I'm gonna give my thoughts on Meliani first. I like you remember when Danger did his competition for the best name in the SPA.
Yeah, yeah, I
He
remember.
always had typoed Joey's player's name. It was Melaini in his, and ever since I just noticed. Then once you said his name out loud, that I've been mispronouncing it for like the past 3 seasons now that we've been doing podcast again. So it's Bas El Meliani, not Melaini, but then sure, Meliani. That that's gonna take some getting used to, but yeah. Also, originally my honorable mention behind Bezic and ahead Timothy Nowitzki Thurman, but I just thought like better pick than Akili perhaps because of a similar skill set and more positional versatility, but also lower on TPE than every one of the other year 6 players that's here in this exercise we've been talking about earlier. So yeah, generally just like we've talked about the Vipers quite a lot in some of our episodes recently. So a really good player, same as Zealot to me, uh, can play all the positions pretty well. Maybe in the next 2 seasons, also gonna find the like the specialization factor, or maybe not. Maybe just gonna be a turbocharged version of this, so they'll still play wherever. Not sure if that's gonna bear fruit, but that just remains to be seen with two players that are like not carbon copies, but very similar to each
Quite
other. It's
similar.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna be interesting to see if they like where they fill each other's gaps, and if it's gonna be maybe better than having not traditional, but even more traditional position players in your depth chart. Yeah. But my fifth player, did you guess it already? Or
I don't think I have.
all right, my fifth player obviously is Cassandra Frost. Since it would
Ooh.
be very telling if I didn't have Cassandra Frost here, since uh, before this season, I, as the Pittsburgh Ironman general manager, signed Cassandra Frost to a 3-year supermax contract, which, uh, yeah, you already see why this caused me a lot of trouble in my list making here. Thankfully, we got to talk about all the players previously here, but yeah, Cassandra Frost, already a former Point Guard of the Year winner and possible winner again this season, and I think second team last season in season 59.
Yeah.
So currently in year 7, up next with this contract would be or will be years 8 and 9. And I think for a player like Cassandra, year 8, even with banking, it's gonna be sort of worth it because, we haven't talked it through obviously, but the possibility of then making more money and banking more TP and buying more TP in regression with the super maxes for both banking years, if there's to be 2 banking years. Anyway, is gonna be still as valuable because the point guard market A is quite there, having already won the Point Guard of the Year award in her 5th year. That kind of speaks volumes about the talent level at that position, which made it reasonable to sign or offer that 3-year contract even into regression so as not to worry about maybe Frost leaving after year 8 and then having to replace Frost with 700 TP inactive point guards like some teams have to resort to these past few seasons. So I like when I thought of it and decided to offer the contract, I thought it was like a slam dunk, very obvious move, and I still do. But in terms of this exercise, obviously, if I then had the choice instead, just pick someone else who would make more sense, just freely, like no personal interconnected relationships or anything, then maybe I could have signed who's the other player I had? Pejic.
Page.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to the 3-year max instead. Or even Zealot or El Malaini. Surely I would have then. But that's not a possibility in the real GMing world. Like real GMing world. This is like 4 layers of fiction or fantasy here because this is like fantasy basketball or a simulation basketball, then fantasy league around simulation basketball, then a talk show about fantasy league simulation basketball, and then a hypothetical about signing contracts in the fantasy league of simulation basketball. But anyways, what do you think about the contract then for Frost, the actual contract that's ongoing currently? Do you think my
Yeah,
reasoning
even
is solid, or do you think I could have done some maneuvering? I don't think I could have, but
I mean I totally get your reasoning. I even looked at Frost purely for this exercise because I find with a little bit of planning, year 9 players are still extremely good. Like we are, if you look at the top AP list right now, you have Adekoya sitting in 5th place, I think.
yeah,
Um, which is crazy. Like Town made a lot of preparation for that to happen, but you can still be a pretty decent player in your, let's say, yeah, pretty much year 9 and even year 10. Um, so I think there's some value even in super max guys going into their fourth their
first
ninth
regression
season
here, yeah,
um, on a super max contract. That's still entirely reasonable, especially if you have like a smaller market like the point guard market right now. So I definitely see why you gave the contract. And I mean Frost is in the cards for point guard of the year this season, right?
yeah,
And possibly next season as well, and the season after that. So definitely not a bad contract, and also a solid choice, I would say.
yeah. The only differentiation between Adekoya and Frost is obviously that regressed 6'5 players actually maybe get worse for scoring efficiency, and only point guard slash shooting guard eligible players get worse in scoring efficiency and maybe even turnovers. Like
I mean,
worse than
Adekoya also got a bit worse, mainly because even with, I think it was 200 or 300 TPE that Town had saved up for regression.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
they're
Worse,
still
worse,
going to
but
take
yeah,
a step back.
worse than a 6-8 players regression year would be because the 6-8 players sort of have that height advantage in the game for shooting. Not that the players like Adekoya is not like a 40 point per game scorer, really, but still, like it's more noticeable, I think, for shorter players than taller. But then
Yeah,
again, the difference maybe is not like it's probably negligible completely.
if you have a good team around you, especially then you can relax with your year nine. That's
Yeah,
going to work.
yeah. Do you think that's all? Do you have anything, any player you've that's popped up during as a possible honorary mention? Then, who's the best player not to be named yet in this podcast?
I mean, it sounds stupid, but for a second I thought about Thompson or Shadow Shield.
Well,
Just
yeah,
seeing the level they are still at right now, and it was like, would that make sense?
no,
Um, in the end, no, they have this season and maybe even a decent next season, but not a super max year.
yeah.
Um,
Would it
and
have made
beyond
sense
that,
for Joe Cooper, who even specifically
no,
planned to play in year 12? No, it still
no.
wouldn't have made sense to sign.
Joe Cooper did put up some nice numbers if you ignore the context of his teams after year 10. I think that his year 10 with the Inferno was the last time he made the playoffs.
Yeah.
Um, but we just got rid of him. Let's not talk about it.
Ah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just happy
Yeah.
you didn't just say Van wrong immediately because
No, 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 no,
since
no, no. He's not a super max guy.
well he is so
Yeah, he is getting a super max, but I'm not a fan of that super max. But it's Daddy's decision. He can give super max to whoever he
let's just
wants.
take a quick look
Um,
at the Chicago Nightmare win-loss record on the season. SPA season 6 to the Chicago Nightmare so far are 20 wins and 27 losses. Yeah, boy. Um,
yeah,
don't know what that has to do with any of this conversation. Sorry about that.
but he's the rookie of the year.
Yeah,
Uh,
most likely Hall of Famer of the year 6 players currently then, because he's an
yeah.
award winner.
Yeah, but
Ah,
all the fun stuff aside, I even thought about Sky Terry. Um,
mm,
Not in his current form. Definitely not.
why?
Don't get me wrong. This guy Terry right now isn't winning you a single game. He's losing you more games than he is theoretically winning you. Uh,
Mm.
but even though his current build is made to just chuck freeze to no end, um, give him a bit of quickness, give him some free throw and a minimal investment into a bit of stealing and like perimeter defense, and you have a pretty nice play on your hand.
Um,
Um,
yeah.
a bit like Baramy, just 5-0 instead of 6-10. So
Let's just do a quick little test and put Sky Terry's free throw shooting to 75 and then trade him to the Houston Ravens for Grant Thompson and see what happens. I'm gonna
you
pause the.
also need to give him quickness. If you don't give him quickness,
No,
then
no,
he will
no,
continue
no.
to
I'm
chuck.
just gonna keep it as is. No, no, no. This like the free throws are the only thing that you need to worry about here. I'm gonna pause the recording because it's gonna take 1.5, 2 minutes to sim the season, but we'll be right back after that. All right, so yeah, with Sky Terry replacing Grant Thompson on the Houston Ravens, the Houston Ravens appropriately made the SBA playoffs, and the Las Vegas Jokers were as hapless as they were. Let's just, for the hell of it, see how they fare in the playoffs. Oops, they got bumped. All right. Anyways, Sky Terry, sort of similar averages actually on Houston. than on Las Vegas. So yeah, probably wouldn't give Sky Terry that contract. Not sure if we can come up with one that's not been mentioned. So I'm just gonna pick a name here. Beep bop boop. Wolf Wolf. All right, Wolf Wolf is a. He's like
Could also be, but I don't know if his game or like the play he is right now can be scaled much higher.
yeah. It takes like it would take a lot of like a massive turnaround in focus really. Like it's reasonably there. Like you could see it happening, but you need like it's not going to be a one off-season turnaround like it's sometimes for other players. Like it's like now you need to spend your entire year six getting like awesome offensively, and that's gonna I don't know maybe feel bad or maybe just look bad. I don't know. I think that's all for us now. Like it was meant to be a real 5 of the week, but now it's kind of like 9 of the week since we already had the added player this and that or there. Yeah, next time we talk, I'm gonna figure out a topic where we talk about less and less our own players and teams, and maybe like actually do some real contemplation and research. Maybe not research, but just like maybe more brain power than our general sort of stuff here. But at least this week we got to look at players like Dimitris Hollywood, who's quickly becoming a crowd favorite in the simulated SBA world, at least, not necessarily the real life SBA world. Anyways, do you have any closing thoughts there, Nepto? What should we talk about next time?
I mean, if it's not about supposed to be about our players and teams, we can do some like mock draft or SBDL stuff.
Yeah,
When we
SBA
can think of
draft,
something.
SBA draft, and SBDL stuff. Yeah, that'd be interesting. Let's earmark that for next time. And now it's to sign us off. We'll say goodbye to Neptune and thanks for stopping by again.
Pleasure as always.
Anytime. Yeah. All right. See you all.